One thing that I have to say is that you have to be dedicated, very dedicated into the craft and then into the art of doing a character. And you must live and be that person. Once that's the only thing I can sit there and describe. Once and that and doing top fives with Don Sill, that's the only thing I really know.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Top Fives with Don Sill. I'm your host, Don Sill, and we got another great top five in store for you today. It's a top five character comedians. You know, comedians who take the stage as a character, and that's what makes them character comedians. Joining me today is quite a character himself, is Jeff Bosy, aka Professor Fedora.
I do have a yearning to go ahead and put on some lederhosen and put on the display for all of you.
And as always, folks, please remember to subscribe, like, and comment below. We want to know your top five character comedians are as well. But without further ado, let's get right into this. It's me and Jeff Bosy with the top five character comedians of all time. Is it Jeff Bosy or is it Professor Fedora? I'm so confused. Jeff Bosy, how you doing, pal?
I'm doing great, Don. How you been?
Good, man. It's great to see you and have you on top fives with me. This is pretty cool.
Oh, it's been a time waiting because not only am I a fan of top fives, but you know, hey, there's a little history with me and top fives. What's number two? They're very, very getting hard on the Aunt Jemima. What about her poor husband, Uncle Ben?
Uncle Ben? Uncle Ben? Over here, Uncle Ben.
Yeah, there you go. You used to do used to do top fives for PUSUSU for our show that we had, and they were always great. And that leads us to the theme of this show. The top fives is a top five comedians who are character comedians. So comedians who take the stage as a character persona. And you've done your fair share of characters. You were Professor Fedora, who's a great character and did a great job. And
yes, keep going, Don Sill. I love it. It's very good. Once I like it so much, it gets me tickled in my no-nos.
And have you ever taken that Professor Fedora character to the stage?
Oh, absolutely not. Do you know how many committed people, that's why they do characters, how many of them would go ahead and like just knock on me all day long? I was thinking about it, but I was like, it's not ready for me in my stage presence right now.
What I told you, Sergio, I don't want your soft serve.
But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and find other places where there couldn't be no sign of corona.
I think when you're on the come up, like you are, you know, you're paying your dues. You're in that dues time where you're out there, you know, playing all the bars and open mics and at every stage you can. It is a bigger risk to be a character. It's a bigger risk to even, like for you were doing stand up for a while with no hat. Then you started wearing the fedora, and they were making fun of you for that. So whenever you make a change or try to do anything different, they're going to get on you. And there is another comedian that's in our Long Island circle of friends who does a character, and he gets a lot of shit for it too. And that would be Andy Palgenos, who plays Dracula on stage.
Flew all the way from Transylvania, and boy, are my bat wings tired! Ah, you get it? Because I turned into a fucking bat!
And I'm a big fan of Dracula. I'm a proponent for it. I'm the one who kind of pushes him to do more of that. And then I see him around the other comics, and they give him a lot of hell for it. They goof on him about it.
He doesn't suck. So stupid.
I think it's weird because I think it takes courage in a way, especially in the beginning, to play a character and to get out of your zone of who you are. But I also think that once you do play a character, there's a freedom to that, because you could say things that you can't say. Like you could probably say things, get away with saying things as Professor Fedora that you couldn't say as Jeff Bosy.
Once I've gone ahead and I noticed there's lots of corona still all over this place here. It's ni hao to you too. No, I had back this morning for breakfast. What's anyway? Once I don't know what you're talking about. Like you go ahead and you turn on an oven and somebody burns. No. That's wrong. Yeah, you know, I always find that I believe that when you do a character, you can hide. You can definitely hide behind the character, but at the same time, it could be just hiding yourself at the same token. You know, you don't want the real you out there. You know, so maybe it's some kind of psychosis, weird kind of thing that they do.
I think that's true. And I also do think that just like a lot of different forms of comedy, whether it's, musical act or ventriloquist or props, it's sometimes being a character can be looked down on. But if you look at some of the character comedians that have done it right, they're icons. They're absolute icons. And it's because they didn't play by the rules, and they ignored all the people that wanted to goof on them. I'm sure every single one of these people we're about to mention were goofed on for being in a character on stage, and not being themselves, or just making fun of the character, whatever it is. There's always going to be people out there, and that's what takes some chutzpah and some balls, is to go. Despite those people, you continue on with the path as long as you feel that it's worth it.
Runaway train never going back. Wrong way or a one-way track. It seems like I should be getting somewhere. Somehow I'm neither here nor there.
But if you think about it, that person or persons would only be remembered as that character, nothing else in their life. You know, they actually an example of one of my picks would be a prime example of how that one person wasn't taken seriously. But you might know who it is.
Well, we'll get into that. We're going to get into that. I do want to say that that this is one of those fine line type of lists, because there's an argument where people could say that every comedian is a character on stage. Everybody embodies a different persona when they get on stage, but this is not that. This is character comedians who are a full-on character, a whole different person on stage than they are off stage. And it's not an impression. It's not somebody who does impressions. And it's, right. Like a famous one character that when I was crafting this list, I was thinking about Richard Pryor. He played this character Mudbone on stage. Just old Mudbone, and he's just like this alcoholic drinking guy, almost like a homeless guy, right, telling stories.
Now, I know that boy. See, he fucked up. See, that fire got on his ass. And it fucked him up upstairs.
But to me, he's already Richard Pryor, and then he gets into a character.
Correct.
Right? So he's not up on stage. It's not like, ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Mudbone. It's not
exactly
that. So for this list, I wanted to keep it that, like actual kind of character comedians, people that embody the character, the whole different name and that they answer to, and everything.
Please don't interrupt, folks. These jokes were choreographed very carefully and for maximum impact by the late, great Rudolf Nureyev, the Russian ballerina.
And there's quite a few of them. Again, but not that many, so we're probably going to get a lot of the same ones. So for every one that we get that's the same, automatically gets pushed into the top 5.
Wow, that's
into our final top 5.
It's like they automatically get dumped into this pile of the end. You know, it's kind of like napkin children.
There you go. All right, well, let's get right into this, man. It's time to get into the top 5. Jeff Bosy, top 5 character comedians. Who's your number 5 pick?
Ooh, my number 5. Actually, it's weird, and most people would consider him to be number 1. My number 5 is Andrew Dice Clay.
Excellent. I love Andrew Dice Clay. Tell me a little bit about Dice.
Well, he was actually originally his real name is Andrew Silverstein, but pretty much he started out in the late 70s and early 80s. And he was also, I guess it was Ronnie Dangerfield, who went ahead and pretty much introduced him. And he took on the bad, tough guy Italian. Hey, how you doing? You know, and but he just rock and rolls with that, and it's actually become part. He's done it so long that there's I don't think there's any turning back on how he could like revert to who he possibly was before he turned into Andrew Dice Clay.
The early Dice he used to be an impressionist. He was a young guy. He started at Pips in Brooklyn, and he would go and do impressions. And one of his favorite impressions was John Travolta, because at the time he kind of looked like John Travolta. They both had the curly hair.
You lay off the skull. I work a long time on my head, and you rattle my brains. I get confused. You know what I mean?
It's my hair. Don't touch my hair. I put a lot of work into it. And he did Stallone, and he did all these impressions. Right. And he was just an average comedian trying to be an actor. He was actually in a movie early on before his Dice persona really kicked in. But then one day he just realized he started getting a better reaction from the crowd at Pips when he would be this Dice character. So he started adding more and more and more to Dice.
I know what you're saying. This guy's got an attitude. I can't help it. It's where I come from. Jail. Everybody back there's got an attitude. It's like the second I was born, doctor smacks me in the behind. I looked at him, I said, Doc, problem.
And then finally Dice engulfed everything he is. And then, like you said, on that Rodney Dangerfield Young Comedian special, that's when Dice Man had cometh. That's when he arrived. And
he came during the era during full-blown AIDS.
Yeah.
But, well, Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet, eating her curds and whey. Long came a Spidey, sat down beside, he said, hey, what's in the bowl, bitch? Oh!
Dude, he was so huge in the 80s and 90s. He was selling out arenas and all that stuff. He was like a misogynist times 100. His whole act. He was very misogynistic, racist. He just said some stuff now. If you go back and watch his early specials, you'll cringe.
Out in L.A., Manhattan, you got them all over the place. Brooklyn, we don't have any gay people. They're all dead. All we got is a big sign that says, welcome to Brooklyn, 4th largest city in America, with this dead fag hanging off the pole.
Because of some of the things he says about other races and things like that. He says they're not even human.
The things that he was saying back in the 80s and early 90s, like once again, any comedian or famous comedian from back then, you might as well just go ahead, find yourself a cross and nail yourself in, at which point, and say like, no, just stone me, I'm good. I know, because like all the horrible, mean things that hurt your widow feelings.
One of the things I always said about Dice Clay versus Sam Kinison is Sam Kinison was the real thing. Yes. Sam Kinison lived it. He was real. Dice probably never drank that hard, never did that much drugs, never partied like that, because Dice was a character. Good old Andy Silverstein, just went back home and probably took a nap or something, where Kinison's out there doing the real damage. But in any case, Andrew Dice Clay is an icon, and I still think one of the greats and kind of an important figure in stand-up in a way, for showing that it can be done to that level.
I'm glad you people listened and take some advice. You could do anything you want. Take it from Dice.
Always knew I'd make it. I never had a doubt. Life's like sex, baby. The more you put in, the more you get out.
Off topic and a little trivia. Did you know what Sam Kinison did before he got into comedy?
He was a preacher.
Yeah. Weird, huh? Praising the Lord and then going ahead and screaming about, like, you know, dropping a load on your face the other night.
And I know you see these porno movies and the girl's like, oh yeah, let me, oh yeah, something, no. Yeah, that's in the movies. In real life, it's...
He was an animal. Love him.
All right, so that's a great number 5. I also picked Andrew Dice Clay. I'll mention him later on as we get to the list. He's a little higher up for me. But my number 5 is a comedian who is always in different characters. He's Long Island's own Bob Nelson.
Bob Nelson, yes.
Bob Nelson, he did a variety of characters, whether it's Eppie Epperman or Jiffy Jeff or these football players or whoever. Right. He very rarely, if ever, took the stage as himself. I don't recall him ever really being Bob Nelson. You know, whether he's juggling the scarves, he's always in some kind of a character. He's Eppie normally when he's doing that, or if he's, Jiffy Jeff. So he's always performing in some kind of character. All of his characters are iconic and great. He had that one great HBO special, Nelson Schmelson, where he's running in and out of that house, and as all the different characters. I don't know how he pulled that off with all the costume changes, but he was the monkey.
Listen.
Am I on? Am I on camera? Hello. Up there. Hello. Welcome to Jiffy Jeff's gym. My name is Jeff. I'm sorry.
And by the way, ever since that character that he created, I've hated my first name ever since.
Jiffy Jeff. What?
What? What you gonna do? What? You know, and I was like, wow, my first name is equivalating to a football moron, and I have to like, hey, Jiffy Jeff, and then people use it as a nickname. I'm like, ah. Bob Nelson's great. I love Bob Nelson.
Bob Nelson's also an icon and a legend, and he's been going through a rough patch right now, but I feel like he's recovering nicely, I hope, knock on wood. And, you know, so give a lot of props to Long Island's own Bob Nelson, one of my all-time favorite comedians.
He's great.
All right, so let's move on to your number 4 pick.
Ooh, my number 4. Okay, my number 4 is Andy Kaufman.
Great pick.
I mean, the fact that he started out, I believe, on Taxi, and he had a character. He's like from some weird country. I don't know, but for some reason he had to talk like this every time. I don't know. But you know, he went ahead and he wasn't taken seriously when he tried to. I mean, even though I feel that he's like the biggest prankster. I mean, like, who knows? He could still be alive.
Some people thought he was. So there was actually people who thought he was going to reveal himself in the year 2000 hit. So like 21 years ago, people thought that was when he was going to say, hey, but year 2000 came and went, and no Andy.
Yeah, we were still worrying about if we needed to go ahead and shut our computers off just in case.
Yeah.
Because of Y2K. And yeah, like just like that and Andy both didn't happen.
Exactly.
You showed me where I'm at today. I was trying to do my best. Ruin everything. Every time I try to go the road, I have to do my best.
Now, Andy Kaufman is great. He was doing stand-up before Taxi, and he did the Latka character back then. It was the foreign man, Latka. Basically, what I loved about it was that he fooled the whole audience. He came out, "Hello, everybody, how are you?" And he would do impressions. Here is my impression of Archie Bunker. Edith, you're so bad, Edith. Why don't you get out of the living room, go to the kitchen, Edith?
So first, I would like to imitate Archie Bunker. You stupid. Everybody's so stupid. You meathead, get out of my chair. You dingbat, go in the kitchen, make me the food. Everybody's so stupid. I don't like nobody so stupid. Thank you very much.
Then he would do all these impressions similar to that. Then finally he goes, and here is my Elvis Presley. And then he would do this amazing dead-on real Elvis. And he was one of the first people to impersonate Elvis, believe it or not, especially on the comedy stage, because it was before Elvis had passed away and all that stuff. And Elvis was still alive, and he was doing his Elvis impression. And then when he was done, he'd be like, "Thank you very much." You know? So I think Andy was a genius. And he also did Tony Clifton, another iconic character.
Like that whole thing, like, yeah, go screw yourself.
Yeah.
And, it was like he had alter egos that were alter egos of alter egos.
I didn't ask you a question. If I ask you a question, you answer. All right, for you too. You don't tell me. Anyway, it was very cold out of it back east.
I mean, that's why you didn't know where he was going to be at that juncture of the day, let alone his career.
Well, David Letterman always said, he goes, whenever I spoke to Andy and I looked into his eyes, I could see that the lights were on, but nobody's home. And I always thought that's such a great quote and really embodies Andy Kaufman, because you never know, even if he's being sincere, you're still kind of on your toes and you don't know if Andy's really being sincere, if he's setting you up for something.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, Andy Kaufman, he was on my top 10 for sure. Long Island guy, another one, it's two Long Islands in a row. And he was just two Long Islands and a Brooklyn. Let's not forget.
Listen, don't worry. I'll be moving out of the States soon enough. Don't worry about it. I got you covered, buddy.
Well, my number 4, and this might be one of the guys you're talking about. I don't know. But this guy, a lot of people love him and a lot of people hate him. And some people are just confused of how this guy made it so famous. And it's one of the blue collar comics himself, Larry the Cable Guy. So Larry the Cable Guy, his real name is Daniel Lawrence Whitney. And he's from Nebraska. He grew up on a pig farm and all that stuff. And he did straight stand up with his real name for years. And he was actually like thinner and, you know, pretty decent looking guy. And he'd go out there in the 80s boom, wearing the jacket and, hey, everybody, how you doing? Didn't really have an accent. But then he hit pay dirt with this character. And Larry the Cable Guy, get her done. And became part of the blue collar of comedy guys. And just launched
Jeff Foxworthy and all
Jeff
of them?
Foxworthy, Dave Enville, or I think it's Dave Enville.
Yeah, Dave Enville. Yeah.
And then Ron White. But Larry was the breakout star from that group.
I got my little brother was over at the house the other day. I ain't never told you about him. He was born deaf. His whole life he's been deaf, but he's real good with the sign language. And but he's got Tourette's too, so he's kind of like that, you know. And he also just rose to superstardom with that persona, another icon. And that just shows you. And you know, taking it back, I wonder if when good old Dave Lawrence Whitney decided to change his name to Larry the Cable Guy, what his friends may have thought, or what his friends may have said, or if they gave him a hard time. And now look at him. You know, the guy has become an icon and has traveled, you know, the world and extremely successful. He's a millionaire. And look, if you ever break down his comedy and watch one of his specials, he's funny. I was gonna get married one time. You know, it's hard finding the right person. I was living with a girl for about 8 months until she found out I was there, and hey, it worked pretty good. He's funny. So,
but I mean, I'm pretty sure his friends are going like, "Wow, that's so dumb. Can I borrow a couple of thousand?"
Exactly.
I mean, honestly, he definitely made it by being that character.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's truly amazing on how. But once again, that is where you're able to go ahead and say, all right, you didn't like some people. They start out their career being a character, and it went from like, wow, I'm like garbage right now being me, but let's see what happens when I'm somebody else, and then that's where it's that one thing you got to do, and then you're on fire.
My brother just celebrated the second. Get her done.
All right, so who's your number 4? Your number 3.
My number 3. Okay, my number 3 is Rowan Atkinson.
Ah, yeah, very good.
We flew over the ocean to go get that guy.
Very good pick. Tell me a little bit about Rowan Atkinson.
Well, Rowan Atkinson, he's well known. I mean, he's done tons of movies, but his well-known character that he did during, like, on the BBC and whatever those little channels were over there in good merry old England was Mr. Bean.
Yes.
And that character was just so loved and so amazing. And the thing was, with that one character that he did, was he didn't have to say anything, no words. It was just his actions alone. It was the harnessing of silent comedy again, I guess.
It was the genius of Mr. Bean and the genius of Rowan Atkinson. His pantomime style, his facial expressions. He was like a throwback to Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin in a sense, where you're reacting to his reactions, and just the way he moved and reacted to things, his expressions. And it's amazing how much you could pull off with body language alone. So yeah, I think great pick off my radar. And
like I said, I totally went like, we're gonna get out of Long Island. We're gonna go take a. We're not gonna take Eastern because they're not flying anywhere these days. But still, that was, like I said. I mean, I always found his comedic style so funny, and the fact that he just had to be just silent, and you didn't have to sit. You didn't have to say a word. Just the reaction alone was just enough to make me sit there and go like, wow, that's really funny shit. And I would actually pee my pants from just the pure innocence and stupidity of it.
Best to look as though your attention has been momentarily distracted. But when your attention is there, it is vital to say how pretty she is looking straight away. But don't overdo it.
It's
like my life, Don.
It all comes full circle. All right, so now
what's your number 3?
Number 3 is another New Yorker, Peekskill, New York. This is another iconic comedian who, again, really created a lot of controversy at one point in his career. But here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Wee Herman. Paul Rubins, Wee Herman. He started doing the character on stage as this childlike, kind of innocent character, but it had very dirty undertones. And then he finally got his big break in HBO in 1981. He had an HBO special, and that special is what launched him. And then he got his movie going in 1985. Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which he became a juggernaut and a total iconic character where, he crossed over into so many different things. he had children's shows, but yet adults loved him because of the adult overtone. So just as many adults as children were watching his morning show.
Mecca lecca hi, Mecca hiney ho.
Mecca lecca hi, Mecca hiney ho. Mecca lecca hi, Mecca hiney ho.
Now everyone at home, Mecca lecca hi, Mecca hiney ho.
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 Because everybody got a kick out of it. It's kind of reminiscent of Soupy Sales back in the day. Had a similar thing where it was like had adult themed undertones, but it was a children's show.
Tell you what I'm excited about. A little while ago, I was in the backyard, and all of a sudden I heard some singing. And it wasn't like a normal voice; it was like a little voice. See? And I looked down, and there was a singing bug. That's right, playing a piano. I brought him inside. That's him. That's him. Listen to him. Buggy, sing something for Blacktooth. Isn't that something?
But anyway,
I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I? Infinity.
That's good. You do a good Pee-wee. I
meant to do that.
And then I said controversial because in 1991 he got caught masturbating in a porn theater. And that
This is not the first time Rubins has had a run-in with the law. According to police, Rubins was arrested in 1983 for loitering and prowling 3 blocks in the same XXX South Trail Adult Theater.
And when you are a character like Pee Wee Herman, and you got children's shows and everything else, when something like that happens,
Got it on the screen.
when something like that happens, that kind of scandal, especially in that time, it pretty much took his career apart, unfortunately. But I think that the Pee Wee Herman character is still legendary, still iconic. Every now and again, Paul Rubins will pull the suit out of his closet and put it on and do his thing, and maybe do a little tequila dance or something.
I saw an older video when he was doing stand-up in like a small venue, and when he opened up with like, "Hi everybody, what's your name?" I was like, wow, that's actually kind of funny and smart at the same time, because he's gonna everyone at the same time. But yeah, like I said, and then he also, like I said, what shocked me. And I had no clue. It's like one of those parts where you sit there and you go, "How old were you when you found out that this happened?"
Right.
And it was like several years later that I found out that Paul Rubin played a character in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, he was a vampire. He was a vampire. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh shit, that was him." But once again, he played a comedic role, and he did well on it. So listen, if he, like, with him in the comedy, grade A. With him trying to finish behind somebody in movie theater, hey, listen, shit happens.
That's not the way I want my popcorn buttered, man.
It's like
so looks like
don't go away.
I didn't want cheese on it.
Oh, you got it curdled. Anyways,
who's your number 3?
My number 2.
Oh, we're on to number 2. That's right. You're right.
It goes so fast on it.
Yeah,
Really,
we are
it's
rocking.
amazing on how, and then the movie magic happens. But Paul Rubin was my number 2.
Ah, very good.
Yeah.
So you were pulling for Pee Wee, and
Yeah,
my number 2.
Who doesn't pull for Pee Wee? No.
And yeah, is there anything you want to add about Paul Rubin's Pee Wee Herman?
Like I said, I mean, just the fact that he was able to be only, like, pretty much that's what he was known for. He stood in that, like, nobody knows Paul Rubin for anything else. Like how some of the other ones, like Bob Nelson, he did characters. And then you had Andrew Dice Clay, who once again just stood into a character, but he did stuff before. Paul Rubin, he walked out and just continued. And but once again, that's how everybody and anybody is going to know him for is Pee Wee Herman.
Phew. Are you okay, Miss Yvonne?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Pee Wee. Oh, and thank you, big fella. Oh.
Yeah, and I think too the difference between Pee Wee and the other guys we talked about, whether it was in Larry the Cable Guy, Dice, is that Pee Wee was the most that you knew as an audience member. You knew that he wasn't real. You knew it was a character.
Yes.
Like it was obvious, right? So like, but he still pulled it off, and he still made that persona work, and he still. Nobody cares about Paul Rubins. They only want to talk to Pee Wee Herman. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Most people that I work with, particularly people I write with, have always said like that their favorite thing is Pee Wee angry or Pee Wee pissed off or snarky Pee Wee. So I try to weave that in as hard as it is for me to be like that.
My number 2 has also been said. It was Andrew Dice Clay. Like I said, Dice Clay is a true phenomenon of his time, and and he got a lot of heat.
Another controversial figure is on our front page. Is he Andrew Clay Silverstein, a nice guy from Brooklyn, or the Dice Man, a concert character who's offended just about everybody?
I remember when SNL kind of canceled him early, like years ago. They wouldn't let him on the show. He got banned from MTV. So he was being canceled before the cancel culture was really in full gear.
No, let me get this straight. And everybody watching and everybody in the studio should hear it. Andrew Clay is a guy that came out here about 10 years ago. And he broke his ass. You know what I mean? Broke his ass, he believed in himself, became the hottest comic in the world. And anybody that doesn't like it could wipe their ass with whatever they say about me.
There's no way he would be able to do his act
absolutely
today, like fresh. Like if he was just coming up now, there's no way Dice Clay could ever come up now. He had to come up when he did in the 80s with that material. But what I like what Dice is doing now, he does a show where he's basically playing himself, and it's unapologetic of who he was then, and it kind of plays off today's time period and how he fits in.
Maybe you forgot 89, the most famous comic to ever walk the planet Earth. Eddie Murphy?
So I think it was kind of a brilliant move for Dice to kind of still stay relevant and still do his thing. But
now I'm just curious, was it for health reasons, or was it because of culture, as far as where he used to always smoke a cigarette on stage, and now he still goes on with the cigarette, just not lit. It's turned into a prop.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, is it because no smoking inside? No, you're not allowed. Meanwhile, my mother was giving birth to me, and she was like, is he out yet?
I think that Dice, I believe he quit smoking for health reasons, and just keeps it as a vice, and also part of his act. It's for his timing. Oh, right. You know, some guys, even with the cigar, if you look at some of the old dudes, it was always part of the timing. Like with George Burns, that was your cue to laugh if you're the audience, was when he took a puff. That means the joke's over, time to laugh.
Now, when they make a picture, the minute they want somebody that drinks, they hire Dean Martin. And he's a smash in all these pictures. Now he takes about 40 or 50 drinks a day. Not because he likes it, he wants to stay warmed up. If the right part comes along, he's ready. I saw him last night, and boy, was he ready.
But the only thing is that he continued smoking until he was 100.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah. He's like, what's cancer? Nothing.
Hey, Dice a wuss.
Those cheap Marlboros.
So now it's time for the number one, Jeff Bosy. Who's your number one character comedian?
You ready for this one? Okay. You're going to sit there and go like, wow, I didn't see this one coming. Foster Brooks.
Wow. Good job. That's an oldie but a goodie. He always played an alcoholic.
You know who I am? No, I don't. Would you mind asking around?
Yes. Like I said, I used to always watch the old Dean Martin shows.
Yeah.
And just the fact that because it was the character that he played, and what was so where I admired the acting skills and the dedication to that character. I mean, he made everybody laugh, like no matter what. I mean, he could stand in the dais, he could be doing the Dean Martin show, and no matter what, they couldn't hold in the laughter because he played the character so well.
I was in that. I was the one with the SO road map.
But I like there was one scene where he does one of his characters, and he's the drunk, but the stories of where he's like what Dean Martin would go like, so what do you do for a living? I'm an airline pilot. Yeah.
I just dropped in for a little drink to settle my nerves before I go to work. What sort of work do you do? I'm an airline pilot.
But after he did the entire set, whatever it was that he did, you see him, he's at the back door where his exit was off stage, and he would turn around and he like a sobered up bow, thank you. For appreciating, and then I just got done entertaining you. So it was so amazing and so funny.
It was definitely a brilliant take on it, and a great character. And kudos to remembering good old Foster Brooks. He's been around in like the 50s and 60s. I think more 60s and 70s too. He was, like you say, he was on a lot of those roasts. He used to be on like Johnny Carson and all those old shows back in the day growing up. And he always played a drunk who'd be, hey, everybody, how you doing? And I remember asking one time, I had a show years ago on WUSB, and we had Peter Bales called in, and I was talking to him about comedy. And I asked him about why does a guy like Foster Brooks playing a drunk is so funny, but then real people who are drunk are such idiots and so annoying. And he was like, it's because of the control. Because he's not really drunk, he's in full control, and he has these punchlines laid out that are just so brilliant. Like you just said, a great one is like, what do you do for a living? I'm an airline pilot. Yeah. So it's just that take on it, and all that made him brilliant.
They call it the greatest show on earth. I think it's now they call it the darn ding-a-ling and barn banging brother circus.
And I'm glad you brought him up, because he's not a guy that's in a lot of the conversation when you talk about great comedians.
No, and the weird part is I can go up to a lot of the comedians that I know on Long Island. I would say I could go up to about 80% of them and mention and drop Foster Brooks, and they'll go, who's that?
Yeah, they're not gonna know.
And I'm like, wow, you're missing a lot, and I'm so sorry. There's a pill for it.
You need to forget your troubles, and I know you come with me tonight, and we'll go someplace to make you forget. Where are we going? To a weenie roll.
What's your number? What's your number one, John?
My number one is back to Long Island. This guy's from Babylon, New York, and it's the one and only Rodney Dangerfield.
I was gonna. He didn't make. Listen, he was number 7 on my list. But once again, I love Rodney.
Rodney, to me, his real name's Jacob Cohen, and then he changed his name to Jack Roy, and when he became a comedy writer, and then from Jack Roy became Rodney Dangerfield, and that's when he really hit his stride. So, like, a lot of people know the story with Rodney. He first performed as Jacob Cohen, didn't really get anywhere. He was, probably like a middle act type of guy. And then he retired because he had a family and he had to go into aluminum siding business and sell aluminum siding. And then he would write jokes on the side. That's when he came up with the moniker Jack Roy.
Of the aluminum siding, he'd be like,
yeah.
That's it. I'm sorry about your house.
I tell you, I'm all right now, but last week I was in rough shape, you know? Last week I saw my doctor. I told him, Doc, every day I wake up, I look in the mirror, I want to throw up. What's wrong with me? He said, I don't know, but your eyesight is perfect.
Basically, when he did, he had a resurgence and he went off this character. And I think he was named Rodney Dangerfield. I forget how the story goes, but somebody else announced him that way because he said, "What's your name?" He goes, "I don't know what name I want to use yet." So like, all right, Rodney Dangerfield, and he came out and he killed. He started doing this no respect thing. He was this down on his luck guy, the self-depreciative humor, and this guy gets no respect. I get no respect. I got to tell you.
I mean, that's the story of my life. No respect. I don't get no respect at all.
That character led him to super stardom, icon level, legendary level. One of the greats of all time is Rodney Dangerfield. And if he had succeeded with Jacob Cohen, we may have never have had Rodney Dangerfield. So sometimes failure is your best friend.
Listen, I'm still waiting for it to find that friend, Don.
There's none bigger really than Rodney.
He had a club. He had his club in the city.
Yeah.
It's not longer there, but I mean.
And they're trying to get that statue made still in Babylon, right? Babylon Village, where he's from. Yeah. So we're still working on getting that done as well. But now it's
3,000 more signatures to go.
Bosy, it is now time to condense our 10 picks down to 5.
Oh,
so
boy.
So far, we know that Wee Herman and Andrew Dice Clay have made it.
Yes,
So-
because they turned into the napkin children. No, I'm sorry.
So we both have chosen them in our original top 5s. They automatically get fast tracked, so they are in. So they are right there. So now we have to pick from is Bob Nelson, Andy Kaufman, Larry the Cable Guy, Rowan Atkinson, Rodney Dangerfield, and Forster Brooks. So out of this list, who gets moved forward first? Do you think is do we move up? I think we have a good argument for Larry the Cable Guy and Forster Brooks right now to move ahead. He was your number one. I think he can get put on. I think Forster Brooks and Larry the Cable Guy both. I think because like Larry the Cable Guy, like, and you can say the same thing for Dice. I mean, these guys
started out. But now do they continue? Do they continue with it?
Yeah.
I mean,
when Dice does his shows to this day, he's like 64 years old, and
Yeah.
he still gets up there. And he's doing the cigarette, doing the whole thing, and the rhymes. And I think
listen. Listen. He could be still like, if he makes it to 80, I'm pretty sure he's gonna go something like, "Hey nurse, suck me off." He'll say something rude. I don't think there's an ounce of what when he was like how he was like how there. Let's say for shits and giggles, we all know Jeff Bosy. Well, some of us do. But either way, and then I turn it to something else. Do I remember the goofiness and how I was beforehand, and I become this person, and that's it for the rest of my life? Who knows? We only know Mr. Clay, however he wants to be called. I don't know. At certain points, I don't care. No. Once I don't care if it happens. If he lives, he lives. He dies, he dies.
He dies. I'm thinking. Here's what I'm thinking so far.
Okay, go ahead.
I have for 5 Pee Wee, for 4 Clay, for 2 Larry the Cable Guy, for 3. Oh no, hold on. 5 Pee Wee, 4 Dice Clay, 3 Larry the Cable Guy, 2 Forster Brooks, and number 1 Rodney. And that will take out Bob Nelson, Andy Kaufman, and Rowan Atkinson. So what do you think about that?
It sounds like a great list. Wait, hold on. What was? We're gonna bring it back to where I'm like dumb, like always. And I told you failure. Wait, what was those favorite names again?
All right, so here's my list so far. I got 5.
Your list.
Well, 5 and 4 we know are ours. So it's 5 is
Right.
Pee-wee, 4 is Clay.
Right.
Then 3 is Larry the Cable Guy. 2, Foster Brooks, and number 1, Rodney.
Okay, well, either way, I think as much as I have, my list, I would have to say we got to keep Rodney in because once again, he's definitely a staple. So Rodney, I mean, he's actually once again he was one of my top 10.
Right.
So I mean, I have to agree with Ronnie Dangefield. I mean, he's just absolutely amazing as far as comedic stand-up and actor. I mean, he was just I love him, and everyone tries to be like him and do impressions of him. So he's got to stay. Ronnie has to stay. I don't care. Ronnie stays between you and I. Wants it with me too? No. Yes, Ronnie has to stay. Yeah. Boy, I'm gonna have to agree with you. As much as I don't want to agree, Don. I don't want to.
So you agree? All right. So here's the list, man. Here's the final list. Are you ready?
Yeah.
We got at number 5, Pee Wee Herman. Number 4, Andrew Dice Clay. At number 3, Larry the Cable Guy. At number 2, Foster Brooks, and the number 1 character comedian of all time, Rodney Dangerfield. Dude, that's a solid list, my friend.
Oh, I felt like I just gave birth. Once I can do the delivery. I'm sorry. I can't help but to keep doing that.
You rock, Jeff Bosy. Tell everybody where they could see you and Professor Fedora.
Oh, well, where you can see Jeff Bosy is you can find me. I actually found that way of like getting an Instagram. I did that, one of those things. So comedian Jeff Bosy on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, of course. And the only way you can find Professor Fedora is only solely on Don Sill's it's PUSUSU.
Bosy, you rock, my friend. Professor Fedora, you rock as well. Thank you so much.
I love you, Don. You do an awesome job. And all the top 5s that you do, out of this world. Everybody should go ahead and watch these vids because they are amazing and very informative.
Well, there you have it, folks. That's the top 5 character comedians that me and Jeff Bosy came up with. Hope you enjoyed it. Please let us know your top 5 character comedians in the comments below. Let us know if we missed anybody or if you didn't like one of our choices. Whatever you have to say, let us know in the comments below. Until then, we'll see you guys next week.